Ladies and gentlemen, when you've been entangled with a narcissist, you must grasp something profoundly chilling. Their hatred doesn't merely end with wanting control over you, it festers, mutates, and deepens into something far more sinister. Within the darkest corridors of their psyche, their obsession transforms into a deadly fantasy. They don't just wish to dominate you, they crave your complete erasure, not just from their presence, but from existence itself. The danger lies in how silently this obsession grows. At first, it hides behind charm, sarcasm, or wounded pride, but over time, the mask slips, and what you see beneath it is the glimmer of something predatory. Today, we will explore the 6 veiled signs that reveal when a narcissist's fixation crosses the threshold from control to destruction, when they no longer simply want to win, but to see you vanish from the world they believe they own. The first and most disturbing sign doesn't emerge in their visible actions, but rather in the fantasies that dance behind their eyes. These aren't fleeting thoughts or emotional outbursts. They are dark, repetitive daydreams of your downfall. A narcissist doesn't fantasize about reconciliation or mutual understanding. They imagine triumphing over you in a way that renders you broken, humiliated, and ultimately powerless. These twisted imaginings become their fuel, the secret theater where they play both the villain and the victor. You can sense it in subtle moments, the cruel smirk when you stumble, the glimmer of pleasure in their gaze when you lose something precious, or the mocking laughter that cuts too deep to be a joke. Every small misfortune that befalls you seems to delight them because your suffering validates their dominance. To them, your pain is proof that their superiority is real. What makes this even more haunting is that they feed off your anguish. It isn't merely collateral damage, it's their sustenance. Imagine someone who looks at your tears not with concern, but with a quiet satisfaction, as though your despair is a symphony composed for their enjoyment. That is the essence of a narcissist's dark nourishment. Once they taste the intoxicating power of your suffering, they begin to crave more. And as their hunger deepens, their fantasies grow bolder, more vivid, and more perilous. They start to envision not just your defeat, but your disappearance. They may never confess this out loud, but you'll hear it slip through in veiled threats disguised as jokes. You'd be nothing without me, or one day you'll regret crossing me. These statements seem trivial in isolation, but together they form a pattern, a glimpse into the abyss of their intentions. Beneath the casual tone lies a deadly seriousness, the shadow of their internal script where your destruction is the climax. The longer these fantasies live in their mind, the more they demand expression. Thoughts, when nurtured, seek action. Over time, their imagination begins to shape their behavior, guiding them toward small acts of sabotage, emotional manipulation, and psychological cruelty designed to erode your strength. Survivors of narcissistic abuse often describe the eerie sense that their abuser was waiting for them to collapse, to fail, to vanish. This is not paranoia, it is instinct, the body recognizing danger before the mind dares to accept it. You feel it in the quiet moments, the way they withdraw when you need comfort, the faint smirk when tragedy strikes, or the disappointment that flickers when you recover too quickly from pain. They don't want your resilience, they want your ruin, because your survival defies their control. And to a narcissist, control is everything. When your independence begins to re-emerge, when you start to reclaim fragments of yourself, it terrifies them. To a narcissist, your strength is a threat, a direct challenge to their fabricated empire of dominance. The fantasy of your downfall then shifts from passive imagination to active desire. Their resentment grows more visible, their remarks sharper, their presence colder. They might begin subtle campaigns of destruction, whispering lies, spreading rumors, or manipulating others to isolate you further. These acts are not random, they are rehearsals for the annihilation they have long envisioned. And while they might never raise a hand, the intention behind their actions can be just as lethal. They aim first not for your body, but for your soul. Before a narcissist ever dreams of your physical demise, they commit a more insidious crime, the slow murder of your identity. This is their true art form. It doesn't happen in one explosive moment, but through 1,000 small cuts. They start by questioning your choices, your competence, and your worth. At first, it masquerades as concern. Are you sure that's the right decision? Or, I just don't think you're capable of that. But soon, the concern turns corrosive. You start to doubt your instincts. Their voice begins to replace your inner one. The erosion of identity begins so subtly that by the time you realize what's happening, much of you has already been hollowed out. This is not just emotional manipulation. It is psychological execution. Each insult, each act of belittlement is a step in their campaign to erase the person you once were. They isolate you from friends and family, claiming those people are jealous, toxic, or unsupportive. The goal is singular, to become the only voice left in your world. When that happens, they rewrite your reality. They dictate who you are, what you deserve, what you should fear, and even what you should dream of. Bit by bit, the light inside you dims, replaced by their version of you, a version they can dominate completely. When you finally look in the mirror and fail to recognize yourself, when you feel small and voiceless, that is when they have succeeded. They don't stop at isolating you, they also dismantle everything that gives your life meaning. The hobbies that once made you glow with joy, they mock them. The career you've built, they ridicule it as unimportant or foolish. The dreams that once filled you with purpose, they crush with sarcasm until you feel childish forever believing in them. What they're doing is stripping away your identity piece by piece until there's nothing left but dependency. Once you are emptied of self, once your passions are extinguished, you become easier to control, easier to discard. This hollowing process is their rehearsal for your symbolic death, the prelude to your disappearance in their twisted script. When survivors of narcissistic abuse say they felt dead inside long before they escaped, this is what they mean. The narcissist's goal was never just to break your heart, it was to destroy your sense of existence, to make you question whether you deserve to breathe, to hope, to be. The tragedy is that by the time you recognize this pattern, you've already endured years of slow suffocation. You doubt your every decision, apologize for your every emotion, and accept blame that was never yours to carry. It's not an accident. It's a masterpiece of psychological warfare. Once the narcissist senses that their grip is loosening, their obsession with control intensifies. Control to them is not a desire, but a compulsion. They need to monitor, to oversee, to dictate. They watch your life as if it were a film they directed, furious when you deviate from their script. Every phone call, every message, every conversation becomes suspect. They disguise their interrogation as curiosity. Who were you talking to? Where did you go? Why didn't you answer? But the curiosity is not innocent. It is surveillance. Each piece of information you reveal becomes a weapon they can wield later. Their control often escalates gradually. It starts with suggestions, then boundaries, then ultimatums. They claim it's for your own good, that they know what's best for you. Slowly, they shape your world into a cage. until even small acts of autonomy, meeting a friend, pursuing a hobby, making a decision, feel like rebellion. And rebellion to a narcissist is unforgivable. They react not just with anger, but with vengeance. They see your independence as betrayal, and betrayal demands punishment. This is why their need for control and their desire for your destruction are inseparable. In their fractured logic, if they cannot possess you fully, then you must not exist at all. It's crucial to understand that when a narcissist's obsession reaches this point, their behavior can become erratic, vindictive, even dangerous. They might attempt to ruin your reputation, destroy your finances, or turn others against you, all because your autonomy exposes their weakness. They cannot stand to see you rise because your strength proves their illusion false. And so, the fantasy of your destruction evolves into a mission. It's no longer just about silencing you. It's about erasing the proof that they ever failed to control you. In the end, the most chilling realization is this: a narcissist's hatred is not born from your flaws, but from your potential. They target the light in you that they cannot possess, the independence that mocks their emptiness. They destroy what they envy, and they envy everything they cannot own. And that is why when you stand up, when you reclaim your identity and refuse to be erased, it terrifies them. Because in that moment, you become the living proof that they never truly had power over you. What makes it even more terrifying is how personal it feels. It is intimate, invasive, and deeply unsettling. You are not simply trapped by circumstance, you are ensnared by a mind that views your existence as a playground for its dominance. The more you resist, the harder they push. They monitor your routines, manipulate situations, and test every boundary, probing for cracks, weaknesses, and vulnerabilities they can exploit. Each attempt to reclaim your freedom becomes a battle that fuels their obsession. They cannot tolerate the thought of you existing beyond their reach, so they tighten their control with frightening precision. This level of fixation is exhausting, isolating, and disorienting. It leaves you questioning your own sanity, doubting your perceptions, and fearing the repercussions of even the smallest independent action. And all the while, the narcissist is quietly preparing for the moment when control is no longer enough, when their obsession morphs into the desire to erase you completely. Control, in the mind of a narcissist, is never just about power. It is about ownership, domination, and surveillance. You are not a person to them, you are property. And when ownership fails, when you show signs of autonomy, the leap to wanting you gone has already been rehearsed in the shadows of their imagination. One of the most insidious ways a narcissist reveals this escalating desire for destruction is through the subtle warfare of reputation. They rarely strike openly. Instead, they weaponize whispers, distortions, and half-truths to dismantle your credibility piece by piece. It's a form of social assassination, executed with precision and patience, designed to make you appear unstable, untrustworthy, or undeserving of respect. While you struggle to keep your dignity, they are already reshaping how others see you, twisting perception into their weapon. Smear campaigns are their silent battleground. They begin with tiny distortions of truth, statements carefully phrased to appear harmless but dripping with intent. Friends are told selective stories. Family members are fed manipulated details. Colleagues are shown skewed versions of events that cast you in an unfavorable light. The genius of this tactic lies in its subtlety. Each lie is small enough to seem believable, yet together they construct a false narrative that isolates you. These lies are almost impossible to refute because they are wrapped in fragments of truth, embedded in moments of genuine emotion, and delivered by someone who appears calm, reasonable, and even concerned. By the time you realize what's happening, the narcissist has already constructed an invisible wall of suspicion between you and the world. This strategy is particularly dangerous because it begins before you even notice it. You may feel a sudden chill in a friend's tone, sense the distance in a family member's eyes, or notice colleagues treating you differently, and you can't understand why. The narcissist delights in this confusion. They feed on your disorientation, savoring your attempts to make sense of the hostility surrounding you. Their joy comes from seeing you second-guess yourself, doubting your worth and wondering if you're the problem. They don't need to confront you directly. Your world becomes their weapon. Every relationship, every social connection, every ally becomes part of their game of quiet destruction. By controlling how others perceive you, they begin to erase your identity from the social world. They make your existence smaller, your voice weaker, your influence negligible. This is not just cruelty, it's preparation. It's the groundwork for annihilation. When your support systems falter, when people stop listening, when your reputation is stained beyond recognition, the narcissist no longer needs to silence you. The world has already been convinced to look away. That's when they feel their greatest triumph. The true horror of this silent war is that it leaves you doubting your own mind. You start questioning every word, every reaction, every memory. Were you really wrong? Did you overreact? Or is this all part of their manipulation? That uncertainty is exactly what they want. Confusion is the soil in which their power grows. The longer they can keep you trapped in that fog of doubt, the easier it becomes to control your thoughts, your emotions, and your responses. Every rumor, every whisper, every half-truth becomes another thread in the web of isolation they weave around you. The narcissist's goal is not merely to destroy your reputation, it's to destroy your connection to reality. They aim to separate you from anyone who might validate your experiences or remind you of who you truly are. And when they achieve that, when you look around and realize that no one seems to believe you anymore, the stage for your emotional destruction is complete. This social erasure is their masterpiece. It allows them to stand back, seemingly innocent, while you crumble under the weight of confusion and despair. This is why recognizing the early signs is so critical. The odd remark from a friend that doesn't add up, the unexplained coldness of a coworker, the sudden distance from someone close to you, these are not coincidences. They are traces of the narcissist's campaign. Each small shift is a shadow of their intent, a rehearsal for your annihilation that starts in whispers and ends in silence. When a narcissist chooses this path, your isolation becomes the battlefield, and perception itself becomes their most powerful weapon. But their cruelty goes deeper than manipulation. It thrives on the thrill of your suffering. They don't simply want to dominate you. They want to feel the intoxicating rush of watching you in pain. There's a perverse satisfaction in seeing you falter, cry, or lose hope. Your despair validates their control. It confirms that they are powerful enough to make you hurt. This quiet, sadistic pleasure grows with time, becoming more refined, more deliberate. They learn exactly which buttons to press, which words to use, which silences to maintain. Every reaction you have becomes part of their performance. This thrill isn't always overt. It often hides behind charm, concern, or feigned empathy. They might offer advice that subtly undermines you or express care that somehow leaves you feeling smaller. They might appear to comfort you, yet behind their eyes there's a flicker of satisfaction. They watch your expressions closely, measuring the effect of each calculated move. A slight jab that triggers self-doubt, a misplaced comment that ruins your day, a small betrayal disguised as a mistake. Each act feeds their hunger. They don't just want to control your choices, They want to shape your emotions, to orchestrate your suffering like a composer conducting a symphony of despair. What makes this sadistic cycle so destructive is its escalation. The more you suffer, the more inventive they become in finding ways to prolong it. They test your limits with precision, pushing until you break, then pulling back just enough to keep you tied to them. This rhythm, pain, release, pain again, is their method of control. They thrive on the contradiction of appearing like a savior while secretly being the source of your torment. To outsiders, they may seem attentive, charming, even admirable. To you, they are an invisible tormentor who dismantles your sense of safety one moment at a time. Over time, your emotional reactions become their favorite game. Every tear, every hesitation, every flicker of fear confirms their supremacy. Your resilience doesn't impress them. It provokes them. It becomes a challenge to crush, another obstacle to their complete control. Your suffering is no longer incidental. It is central to their identity. In their twisted logic, your pain defines their power. And that power, once tasted, is something they cannot give up. The danger lies in how easily this dynamic hides in plain sight. Friends might see the narcissist as caring or attentive, unaware of the psychological warfare unfolding behind closed doors. You, meanwhile, are left questioning your sanity, wondering if you're overreacting or imagining things. That doubt is their shield. It protects them while you bear the blame. The more confused you become, the stronger their grip grows. And as they feed on your confusion, their fantasies of your complete erasure grow darker. Eventually, they begin rehearsing life without you. This is the final, most chilling stage. It's subtle at first, barely noticeable, but its implications are devastating. They start picturing a world where you no longer exist, and they begin arranging their life accordingly. They imagine how they'll explain your absence, how they'll replace your role, how they'll spin your disappearance as your own fault. They don't dread this scenario, they relish it. To them, your removal is not a tragedy, but a liberation. This rehearsal begins quietly. They might start forming new relationships long before the end, identifying replacements or allies to fill your space. They study what you bring to their life and plan how to take it or replicate it once you're gone. They imagine your possessions in their hands, your achievements under their control, your relationships recast with new players. It's not about moving on, it's about winning. They are practicing your absence as though it's a foregone conclusion. As this fantasy takes shape, they begin to detach emotionally. The energy once spent on controlling you shifts into planning life after you. The insults grow colder, the affection vanishes, and the silence between you stretches wider. They no longer need to provoke because in their mind, you are already gone. They've rehearsed your end so thoroughly that your erasure feels natural to them. And as terrifying as that realization is, it is also the moment of truth. The moment when you finally see the depth of their darkness and understand that survival means escape. Your presence is no longer a challenge to them. They have already envisioned a life where your existence holds no value, where your voice, your opinions, your very essence can be erased without consequence. This emotional detachment is perilous because it marks a shift in their psychology. They are no longer interested in merely dominating you. They are preparing to eliminate you, at least in their mind, from their world entirely. Their obsession has evolved from controlling your actions to imagining a reality in which you no longer exist. And in that distorted reality, hesitation and remorse do not exist. They see your disappearance not as a loss, but as an act of balance, as if removing you is the final proof of their superiority. Simultaneously, they begin rewriting the story of your life. They start taking credit for your accomplishments, subtly claiming that your achievements were only possible because of their influence. They distort your reputation among peers, diminish your value in conversations, and steal ownership of your contributions with casual ease. In their rewritten version of reality, they are the hero and you are a forgotten footnote. It is as if, in their eyes, your life has already ended and they are standing on its remains, constructing a new identity for themselves. They don't just want you gone, they want to inherit everything you built. They crave to stand where you once stood, to be applauded for what you once created. This is the ultimate manifestation of their twisted need to replace, erase, and dominate. What makes this transition so frightening is how quietly it happens. To outsiders, nothing seems wrong. They see only a confident individual moving forward, making ordinary life adjustments, appearing stable and in control. But for those caught in their shadow, the signs are unmistakable. You feel it in the way they compare you to others, in the subtle criticisms disguised as advice, in the small but deliberate actions that undercut your confidence. You notice the whispered conversations, the quiet alliances formed in your absence, the unnerving calm in their demeanor as they begin to act as though your removal is not a tragedy but an inevitability. They plan not in rage but in cold anticipation. Every look, every silence, every decision feels like a step toward a future where you are simply gone. Their desire becomes systematic, deliberate, and frighteningly patient. When you begin to recognize these patterns, you must understand what they truly signify. They are no longer acting from impulse or wounded pride. They have entered the stage where your existence itself has become intolerable to them. It is no longer enough to silence you. Now they must erase you entirely from their version of reality. Every quiet act of manipulation, every subtle distancing, every calm dismissal is part of the same ritual. They are practicing a world without you, sculpting it carefully in their imagination until it feels real enough to pursue. In this new vision, you are not a person. They have transformed you into a problem to be solved, an obstacle to be removed. Their obsession has reached its darkest form, the fantasy of a world purified of you, a reality in which they alone remain unchallenged, unopposed, and victorious. The coldness that once frightened you now feels like indifference, but that indifference is not peace, it is preparation. They are detaching not to move on, but to destroy quietly, efficiently, and without remorse. If you have seen even one of these signs, do not dismiss it as paranoia. Narcissists are masters of concealment. Their most dangerous intentions are wrapped in calm words, polite smiles, and convincing rationalizations. They wear normalcy like armor, but when their obsession crosses the line into eradication, when their fantasies turn into blueprints, your very safety could be in jeopardy. Trust the unease you feel. It exists for a reason. Recognize the patterns for what they are, warnings. In the presence of such quiet malice, denial is a luxury you cannot afford. These individuals cloak destruction in charm and justification, making it difficult for others to see the truth. But beneath their poise lies an intent that grows more sinister with time. And when the fantasy of your absence becomes too vivid, they will begin to act on it in ways that dismantle every part of your life, your relationships, your self-worth, your peace. That is why it is crucial to trust your instincts, to listen to the part of you that senses danger even when logic tries to silence it. Your survival begins with awareness. See the signs. Acknowledge the reality. Understand that what you are feeling is not exaggeration, it is recognition. The narcissist's endgame is not simply control, but obliteration of everything that reminds them of their failure to own you. Their goal is to erase the evidence of your independence. And so, when you stand up, when you refuse to be erased, that act of courage becomes both your rebellion and your protection. Because exposing their secret intentions, speaking your truth without fear, may be the very thing that saves your life.